let's discuss workflow. Let's discuss how our workforce is going through a big transformation. Roger, what is the number one takeaway from your research on that?
Yes, a noticeable change in the style of leadership. As we talked to many of you today, what we see is a move away from the command and control mentality, very much towards the orchestration, collaboration mentality. Again, something that's been talked about for so many years, but it's now very apparent as how you're structuring your own organizations into tribes, into teams, that operate relatively independently within IT itself. The other important thing here is sourcing talent has now become very much a global activity. And it's really interesting to see the diversity of talent now in leadership positions, CEO, C-suite positions in all the organizations we talk to. No longer is a national affiliation required. They will come from anywhere in the world. So I think this is a very different type of leadership sourced from very many different areas of the world.
So yeah, let's discuss the first topic of workforce, and that is leadership. So how do you guys see, is there a new leadership that is necessary these days? How does that compare to 5 or 10 years ago? What's your view on this?
So maybe if I start, I look from an IT leadership perspective, I think said before, I think the role continues to evolve. Whilst deep technology knowledge and capabilities is obviously continues to be important, the partnership with the business and understanding the business requirements and in fact getting ahead of those is becoming increasingly important. So there's a business leader first almost, rather than sort of just a pure IT leader. And clearly it varies by sector and varies by organization. A part of that is in understanding where the business is going and therefore the implications for technology. There's then the implications for the people. And therefore, how do you maintain the people capability plan within IT, and how do you make sure that that's staying in sync with current and future needs from the business perspective? So I do think there's a role from a leadership perspective to have a broader perspective than just running a technology shop, but also managing the people agenda and making sure that you've got engaged people who want to join technology, who want to stay in technology, people from the business who want to join technology because there's a career path that they can see that continues to grow and stretch them.
I think one of the changes, if you compare that to the past, is the technology per se. Nowadays, the leadership role has a significant part of digital knowledge and digital know-how. Like if you have users work from everywhere in the world, you got to be savvy with the technology on the one hand, that's operational, tactical, yes. But on the other hand, you also need to embrace the technology and the digital things that are possible to help those guys understand the business better and what to do and how to help the business there. So that's a different aspect of what's in the boat for leadership. And I agree with Roger on the command and control style, which is definitely changing or has changed now to, not necessarily laissez-faire, I would say, but it's not the control part anymore. It's like you have your goals and the group is going to reach the goals and they talk about it. It's not that you have to control them anymore.
So we're moving, as the comment in the chat here as well, we're moving maybe more from management to leadership, and people want to work for leaders and not only for managers. I would say, let's go to the second topic, and that is our sourcing strategies. How are they changing? What's the view from the research, Roger?
Again, global sourcing is much more the norm today because we don't actually have to co-locate our workforce with our offices anymore. We'll talk more about that later. It's much easier to source from other regions of the world, other parts of the world, particularly now Asia and increasingly Africa, where there's a lot of talent residing there. The other important aspect of this, of course, is automation itself. So certainly in the IT function, something I didn't mention previously, there's a lot of automation taking place. The belief here is that automation, firstly, will reduce costs, which is important, but it will also increase speed and quality. So automation is very high on the agenda, particularly in large IT organizations. And the third area, which is, again, something that people have talked about a lot, is the need for partnerships and ecosystems. How can organizations take advantage of experienced partnerships and experienced ecosystems, almost to the point where one organization said that they were enabling their own staff to go work for other organizations for a period of 6 to 12 months, just to get a different point of view, to get different experience. So again, blurring of boundaries, someone mentioned earlier, between what an organization actually is at its core and how it interacts around all the sources of talent available to it.
Yeah, let's discuss that. Kurt, what is do you see a change in sourcing strategy and finding the right people now compared to some time ago?
I think some time ago, we mainly had a base in the Netherlands and in Bangalore. What we now, basically, we are in the process of moving to a full agile DevOps environment across everything. So we also now have nearshore in Poland and Mexico, but then for niche things like, for instance, hybrid e-commerce, we then found resources in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And the whole thing is that, working from anywhere, and the whole idea of being all together in a room simply is no longer there. So it's really around finding, I would say, the right skills at the right price, and then through the tools, making sure that they work together in a virtual way. I think, as you know, Hendrik, 2 weeks ago, we did a major carve out from an acquisition we did last year. So we had a run book of 104 hours, and that was executed by people sitting in all kinds of different places, but just through the tools, through the interaction, and then also through the planning, it simply worked. Now, this is something that I think a year ago or 2 years ago, we never would have imagined doing it this way. So we just adopted the situation. Maybe another example, we recently did manufacturing execution deployments, also in Latin America and then in Asia, with the team sitting in Europe, totally in a virtual way. That was something, I think even a year ago, if you would not be able to go local to train people local, you never would have done the project. So I think we really have adjusted and changed, and the whole sourcing has also changed with that.
Yeah. Dimitris, you work in a very global company as well. You're in many different regions and so on. So what's the impact of new sourcing strategies for you?
I think that many of those cliches were adopting offshore, nearshore, and were much more stable, have been broken during this 1 year and a half. No, we necessarily require a global footprint and basically much more pivot to North America. And at the end, thanks to the digital interaction that Kurt was referring, we have lost the fear. We have been adopting or implementing carve-out and changing drastically many of the applications without the necessity even to know each other, no? And with the same sense of control. We have seen how the professional at the other side of the world that belong to the company gain the responsibility in a much more mature way. They were receiving the responsibility knowing that it was much more in their hands. This is something that is going to stay with us because it's giving us resiliency, it's giving us much more flexibility. We are able to choose. No? So the concept about nearshore, offshore, applying just thinking in cost has been diffused. And right now, we are operating on a global scale with partners, thinking in the long term, but close to the operation and remote to the central offices with the same feeling of partnership and teamwork. No? That's amazing. Never imagined 1 year ago.
I've launched, by the way, a new poll, and the question is, how might you be able to address talent acquisition and retention post-COVID? And the options are: introduce a work anywhere policy. That's, of course, important. Seek talent from other geographies, source talent through external partnerships, or apply artificial intelligence more widely. So interesting maybe is these partnerships and exchanging talent among companies. Is that something that you have experience with? Is that something that in IT, are you working with other companies and exchanging experts that maybe you don't need full time?
I like the idea a lot. If you believe that the other company has the same methods and policies, and they are like a base where you don't need to re-educate for those professionals that want to continually be under changes and explore new domains and so on, could be a quite interesting method to accelerate the progression, at the end retain under the corporate environment without losing them. No? I will consider that and open to discuss.
Maybe one of the things that we are looking to extend our base in Bangalore by close to 100 people. Now, especially with the current COVID situation, recruitment is quite challenging. So we have reached an agreement with 4 partners we use, that we can get people from them taking line management position with the option that I think if we agree and they agree, that they come on our payroll. So this is also, yeah, I would say a rather new concept that we're now trying out.
I've got a question in chat here. Is recruitment maybe also changing where traditionally the manager would select where the right person for the job, and now maybe the team has a bigger impact and are much more part of the recruiting? Any experiences there?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. In fact, I think it's combination, right? So manager or leader, because I think there is some accountability for the right capabilities coming into the organization, depending on the scale. But certainly the interviews that we run typically are with the team. In some cases, in fact, for one of our senior recruits, the team that the person would have working for them interviewed the candidates. Right, so it's not just the team at a peer level, but actually the team that has been inside our organization for a while and therefore knows the mechanics of what needs to get done. And at one level, what type of leader they would work with. We're also moving to that point, because I think that's, forming that team is quite critical. And that's not just because we're in virtual pandemic mode where you can't physically meet the team and get to know them, but the fact that it's a much faster route to get the team up and running if they feel engaged in part of the recruitment process than a new leader coming in or a new team member coming in and having to work out ways of working, preferences, cultural fit or otherwise. So we're well down that track, Hendrik, as a norm for us, because I think it is important.
We all violently agree, apparently, so that's great.